Because you asked about the line between prose and poetry by Howard Nemerov. Sparrows were feeding in a freezing drizzle that while you watched turned into pieces of snow, riding a gradient invisible from silver aslant to random, white and slow. There came a moment that you couldn't tell, and then they clearly flew instead of fell. Here's the text of this very short poem, only 6 lines long, divided into a stanza of 4 lines, that's called the quatrain, and then a stanza at the end of 2 lines, that's called a couplet. So if we take a closer look or a closer listen to the first stanza, you'll hear how Nemerov repeats a lot of sounds to give the poem a musical quality. In the first line you got feeding and freezing. You've got some rhyme with snow and slow. And you also sort of have some rhyme with drizzle and invisible. Okay, that doesn't rhyme exactly, but it's close. So we call that near rhyme or slanted rhyme. They both have the same sounds, it's just that invisible has an extra B sound in it. And then in the final line of the quatrain, you've got the SL sound repeated 3 times. Silver, aslant, and slow. Now let's read the poem again and see if we can't form a picture in our mind about what Nemerov is describing. Sparrows were feeding in a freezing drizzle that while you watched turned into pieces of snow, riding a gradient invisible from silver aslant to random, white and slow. There came a moment that you couldn't tell, and then they clearly flew instead of fell. So what's going on here? He said he was going to talk about the line between prose and poetry, and all he did was talk about drizzle and snow. Well, from the adjectives he uses, I guess we can figure out that the poet likes to look at both drizzle and snow, but the way drizzle kind of falls down on a gradient, it's a bit more orderly, whereas the snow is a bit more random and free. They're both made of the same element though, so if he's really talking about the difference between prose and poetry, I guess we'll have to change some of this. They're made of words, and we can replace some of these other adjectives with just the word beautiful. And I suppose now we've arrived at Nemerov's point, which leads us to the actual definition of these 2 terms.